I've told my story, and my story largely resembles that, right? I had 4 degrees, got out of the Marine Corps, realized that I wasn't going to work in law, wasn't going to work in the fields that I could work in and get a full-time job and be comfortable. I was
Mhm.
starting a business. Um, and the one thing that I would say about that experience, and this is what I tell young entrepreneurs all the time, is that there is a certain stress that comes from having to take care of your family.
This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get. Hey, everybody, we're back. And this episode, we're going to be talking about It's Over. All gone, Rob, from scratch, starting over. Now, we've touched on this subject before, but Rob, what's really got me thinking about this, I was listening to a podcast and the guy said that he had to pay $3 million in restitution for whatever, for a little thing that he got himself into. And then he got sued for another 60 million. And then they asked him, can you pay it? He's like, uh, maybe, but I'd be over. It would be no more money, right? And all these different things. And it got me thinking on, you may not be at that level or anything like that. I'm not making $60 million in my business,
Not yet, not yet.
either, right? But the question becomes, if you lost it all
Hmm.
and you had to start over. Now, I want to bring something in here too, Rob. You couldn't work a job. You've worked a business all your life or your adult life, or whatever, or you're committed to that cause, however you want to see it. You just couldn't go and get a 9 to 5, to pay the bills. You had to do it, start over with a business. Now, you
Hmm.
do have all of the things you have now, right? You've got Chat GPT, you've got LLMs, large language models, da da da. So you have these answer engines, these assistants, this AI. What would you do? We want to talk about some methods, some
I like it. I
ideas.
like it. So, now,
What would you do,
quick
Rob?
question. Say you can't get a job. Is it that you can't get a full-time job or you can't get a job, period, whatsoever?
I guess I'm looking at it from, for whatever reason, you can't leave the house to work a job. You can't, your health is bad. You got to, I don't know. It, I've debated whether or not I wanted to even introduce the idea of not having a job. I guess you could work a job, but I just want to take this from a business has to start over. This is all
Yeah,
we
no,
got.
I got you. And the reason that I asked that question is because, I've told my story, and my story largely resembles that, right? I had 4 degrees, got out of the Marine Corps, realized that I wasn't going to work in law, wasn't going to work in the fields that I could work in and get a full-time job and be comfortable. I was
Mhm.
starting a business. Um, and the one thing that I would say about that experience, and this is what I tell young entrepreneurs all the time, is that there is a certain stress that comes from having to take care of your family
Mhm.
that you don't appreciate until you're in it. And that stress oftentimes will cripple creativity. It will
Mhm.
cripple opportunity seeking. It will it will move you back to scarcity thinking and to small thinking. And so the first thing that I tell entrepreneurs when you're trying to start a business and you want to be creative and you want to move in and operate in the marketplace from a place that doesn't look like desperation is
Mhm.
to make sure you're not in a place of desperation. um and what I mean by that is you don't have to have enough money to pay all of your bills. You don't have to have enough money to pay everything and be living comfortably. But what I recommend, even if it's delivering pizzas, even if it's doing data entry work from your computer at the house, even if it's doing gig work of whatever sort, have enough money coming into the house that you know that you can pay your rent, that you know that you can pay for food.
Mhm.
If you're not a hustler. Now, this is two tracks. If you're a hustler, go find something to hustle because you're gonna make more money doing that and you already got that skill set. But if you're not a hustler, if you're trying to develop your hustler ability,
You got to up your hustler quotient.
Yeah, you got to up your hustler quotient, then go get a job, hustle in what you're good at hustling at, which is part-time work, right? Like, I told the story. I was ship shopping, I was varsity tutors, I was substitute teaching, I was, what else did I do? Um, I mean, it's just some of everything. I almost went and got a, a pizza delivery job, just all types of different things where, ship shopping, we was delivering groceries, right? So I go grocery shopping for other people, deliver their groceries, but this was, making 100, $200 a week, but it was, 5, 10 hours. So I was making, somewhere around 10 to $20 an hour doing this work, 15, 11, $15 an hour doing other work. But the beauty of it was flexible enough that I could go
Mm-hmm.
get money when I needed to get money, and I could be working on my business when I need to work on my business. And um, and so that's one of the things that I would highly recommend is to make sure that your living situation is taken care of.
Yeah. And he
Second
said
thing,
desperate, right?
yeah,
Not being
right,
desperate. And I'm
not
going to
being
counter
desperate.
all this, y'all.
Yeah, my big thing is, and again, that's for the people that are not hustlers. If you're a hustler, and this is the thing that I will say, because here's the thing about sales. When you're desperate, people can sense that. When
Yeah.
you're desperate, you give a different energy off. When you're desperate, you're begging people to do something for you. You're not presenting them with value to them. Now, again, hustlers have already gone through that whole thing and they have the two personalities. They have the person that's selling and they have what their real life is over here. And so they understand and they can bring it. And you learn that eventually throughout time. Like now, nobody knows what my living situation is, and they never have to. I can sell $100,000 deal, and you don't know if I'm living in a mansion or if I'm not, right? Like that's the whole thing. I've learned that skill, but it's a skill that you have to learn to separate your personal life from this interaction, from this sale. Um, but that's the first thing I would make sure that you had that, because for those people that don't have that skill, it's going to bleed into everything else. It's going to bleed into your networking. It's going to bleed into your sales calls. It's going to bleed into your your marketing. It's going to bleed into
Yes.
everything because you're desperate to get that
Yes.
money.
Yes.
And I
You are.
remember going through that period of time. And for me, what wound up happening during that period of time, 6 months, I made $15,000. Again, 6 months, I made only $15,000. And it was all because the desperation was kind of reeking. Now, the interesting thing about it was, after making only $15,000 over 6 months, you realize I'm not going to die only making $15,000 over 6 months. And so the desperation goes away because you're like, I can survive like this. And then things start changing. Then I started making $4,000 a month in one job. And then we pick up two more jobs and I'm making $25,000 in a quarter. And over that next year, we made about $75,000. But that didn't happen until after, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
desperation left. So that's the reason why I talk about the desperation. That's the main thing for me. But I know you got a counterpoint to
Oh,
that. So
and
before we go into the extra stuff, I want to hear your position
everyone,
on the
and
desperation.
this is, I want you desperate. I want you scared. Not to say I want you this way, but I mean, I want you to use that energy like nothing before. Right. I say that, Rob, because I can recall times when I had to do something versus I had the luxury to do something. I had to do something and I did it.
Mm-hmm.
No, the luxury having a week, having 2 weeks, the law of Parkinson's law. Oh, I got
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And
It'll
I'm
take 2 weeks.
really trying to understand and share with entrepreneurs that I coach is that at certain times, you literally have to use something that isn't normally there, that
Yeah.
fight or flight, that thing that makes you go, I got to get this bag in a legal way. I got to do whatever it takes in a legal way to feed my family, to
Yeah.
feed myself, to
Yeah.
avoid these. And I think what I find, and if I get emotional on this one, man, it's because I'm seeing it and I've seen it and I've been there. So
Mm-hmm.
y'all forgive me. And hey, look, if y'all like the way this is already going, or if you don't, put something in the comments says, yeah, I don't like the way this is going. Or if you're digging it, send it to somebody, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're just now hearing this. But here it is, Rob. It is that urgency is gone. I mean, it seems to me, from especially entrepreneurs that I'm finding that are like, hey, I want to start something. And I'm going, what is that? Like that Simon Sinek moment. What is that why? In other words, how deep is that why? That's what we should be asking. How urgent is it for you to start this thing? Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
good. I got a little job to feed my family. I'm not optimizing myself, So then that next question becomes, how much time are you spending on it? I said, walk me through your 8 hour day. Now, when I ask that question, I'm
Mm-hmm.
into it. Walk me
Mm-hmm.
through your 8 hour
Mm-hmm.
day. And from what you said you want, if I don't hear everything toward that end, to me,
Mm-hmm.
given where you
Mm-hmm.
say your situation, it could be, hey, you lost everything, you are $3 million in debt, or $300,000 in debt, whatever it is, right? You got sued, the IRS came and took everything, and you got to start over. You don't have the luxury of doing a job because health, whatever it is, right? Do
Mm-hmm.
you have the desperation, that hunger, that whatever it is, to go out there and say, I'm going to do this? This is what I've been curious about and why I wanted to talk about or revisit this topic,
Mm-hmm.
because I, I think that becomes the difference. Somebody says, I'm going to do this, and they got this thing in them, right? They got this something in them that's saying, I'm not failing. I know I
Yeah.
may reek of desperation. I may smell it, but we're talking about getting rid of ego and what it tries to do to you. Hey, you need to look
Yeah.
good. No,
Yeah.
I need to make money.
But I think I don't know. I I don't disagree with you. I'm struggling right now because I agree with the sentiment, but I think that one of the things that gets peddled in our in our marketplace amongst especially amongst entrepreneurial coaches and people telling people how to
Mm-hmm.
move to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm wary of is there's this, you gotta hustle hard, hustle, hustle, hustle hard. Like you can't, no days off, and blah, blah, and here's the thing
Yes.
that 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 here's why that's problematic to me. First of all, none of the people who are saying that is that their lifestyle.
So, in other words, they've achieved in telling you this is how you get there versus,
Number one, but number
are you
two,
in it now?
when you actually dig into the backstory of what they're doing, they weren't hustling the whole time. Most of the
Mm,
time, they were doing what their passion was, and they
mm,
were hustling their passion intermittently. Because as you're learning this thing, you don't know. I was just talking to my business coach the other day about this, and
mm-hmm,
I brought you up because I love your phrase, profit generating activities.
mm-hmm.
And I was talking to her about how one of the difficult things when you're in like a business like mine, where we may have four or five-figure sales a year, right? Versus a bunch of three-figure, four-figure sales, 100,
Oh, I
200, 300,
understand. Sure.
right? And so you don't get as many reps to understand what a PGA is because there's so much stuff that I'm doing in a 365-day year. If I
Uh-huh.
make five, six sales, while that
That's your year.
is multiple million, I mean, multiple thousands of dollars, $100,000 in sales,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a lot of reps to be like, so what in this 3 months is the reason that I got this sale? What in this 2 months is the reason that I got this sale? It's difficult to know what those PGAs are, right? Those profit generating activities. And and so I think that for me, what gets frustrating in that space is when I look at the successful entrepreneurs, not the entrepreneurs that are just trying, right? But the successful entrepreneurs that I know, the one thing that I notice about them is that they're not focused. They're not doing just one thing monomaniacally,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's all that they do,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? What I notice about them is they have one major focus, but they're doing four or five other things that are all kind of yielding opportunities for that major focus because they're talking about this while they're doing all these other things. And
Mm-hmm.
and so haven't seen the story of the person. Like even when you look at Damon John, right? Like he's one of those kind of hustle people, right? And you look at him and I'm like, he had a car service, he had uh uh he was selling hats, and then the hats turned into hats and t-shirts, and then the hats and t-shirts turned into FUBU. But it wasn't as if he was like, I want to be clothes designer. And he just did clothes designing. No, he hustled to make money and figured out different ways to hustle and
Yeah.
different ways to make
Yeah.
money. And he hustled to make hats, and the hats went bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he had to go find enough money to go do it again.
Yeah.
And then he did it again. And then he had to go find enough money to do it again. And then
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's this mystique, there's this aura that all he was ever doing was FUBU. It's like, nah,
Right. Right. Right.
that's not how it works. And every entrepreneur that I know, right? And I know, millionaires, I know thousandaires, I know, right? Like everybody that I know, they wasn't just doing one thing. And they're still not just doing one thing. And one of the things that allows for that growth is the fact that they're constantly interacting with people and they're constantly around opportunities. So they're not just monomaniacally focused on this one thing. And that's how the serendipity will happen. And so I get a little bit anxious when we kind of press this hustle hard and stay focused narrative. Because yes, I agree with you. I'm the laser focused guy, right? Like, but there is a laser focused on the thing that you're doing, but
Mm-hmm.
sustaining that quote unquote laser focus over a month, over 90 days is a much more difficult prospect. And it's a much looser prospect,
Mm-hmm.
right? The things that you're doing over 90 days are loosely related to the thing that you're focused on, although they are loosely related. It's not every day I get on social media and all I do is I talk about this product. And then
Mm-hmm.
after 90 days, it's blown up. And that's not how it works.
That's
Right.
interesting. And I wonder if we had, when I think about like some of the methods, right? One of the things we want to talk about, okay, what would you do? What are some of the tips, tricks, and templates, if you will, right? And I kind of, in the age of having artificial intelligence, having the chat GPTs and having, these large language models that are coming out in a variety of formats, right? If we've got that, and now we have that assistant that we can sit with, and we don't have to pay it. Now, of course, there's paid services, but now we've got
Mm-hmm.
something that we can literally sit in a room all day and ping off of. Something that we could be at the library because we've got no computer and
Mm-hmm.
ping off of and start asking questions of, right? And I look at this as the major opportunity to really go, I could go all in if I focus on the thing that I want, and that is that revenue generating activity. What is it, right? This is what I ask some of the entrepreneurs I'm talking to, right? I'll ask them a couple of things. Do you want to take the sniper approach or the shotgun approach?
Mm-hmm.
That's one, right? Because we can go out and try to do a lot of things, and this is to your point, or we can focus on one thing and one thing only. Up to
Mm-hmm.
you, right? I just had an entrepreneur tell me, I would like to take the sniper approach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, in order to do that, one of the tips, one of the tricks is we got to find that thing that people want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right now, we then maybe go to our chat GPTs or we go to one of our AIs and we say, what is the top selling blank? What is being searched out the most, depending on which GPT you use, right? What does it seem to be a big problem that I think I might be able to, solve? What
Mm-hmm.
affiliate program is selling the most? What is the gravity of it? Now, you don't even have to understand what all of this means to understand that there's a way. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm getting to. And then if you say, well, you know what? I have nothing, I have no product, I have no service, then you become affiliate marketer and you sell like hell.
Now, the thing that I want you to pay attention to is what you just did was amazing. And there's a subtlety in it that I don't think a lot of people are catching. or maybe they're catching it and I'm not aware that they're catching it, but I want to point it out nonetheless for any of the people that were like me and were missing it when I was at that stage of business. What you just talked about was we're going to go conduct product market fit. And
Yes.
even if your product isn't the product that fits the market, we're going to find you a product that you can put into the market so that
Yeah.
you can make money.
Yes.
But notice the nuance there. So we're not going to focus on what you're doing right now. We're going to focus on you learning the market so that when you have the space and the ability and the time to then make a market for your products, you built it because you built the skills of hustling.
Mm.
And that's the key. That's the biggest thing that I think is so important for people to recognize. You There's a saying that says, "Do what you have to do till you can do what
Do
you
what you
want
want
to
to
do."
do. Oh, I love that. You know, I love
Right?
that saying.
And in business, the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is it's a long game. You hear me say this all the time with the classes that we teach. Business is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Uh,
And the thing that I feel like is the problem with the hustle harder kind of mindset is that that's a sprinter's mentality.
sure. Yeah.
You can hustle harder during a marathon all you want to. Here's the deal.
It's going to
It
lead
don't
to
matter
bad
how
outcomes,
fast
isn't it?
you run, right? It don't matter how fast you run mile one, you still got 25.2 left.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question is, can you sustain that hustling long enough to win the race or long enough to
Sure.
finish the race? Because here's the interesting thing. If
And
you
if why
run
would I enter a
20
marathon?
miles, right? If you run 20 miles and then you fall out,
Yeah.
have you completed a marathon?
No, you have not.
Exactly. I remember I was running my marathon and literally this is mile 25 to mile 26. I'm jogging. My wife had went and got a bike to follow us around and everything. So she had rode up and then walked back to find me. And now so we walking back to where her bike is and we're talking. And as we're talking, this guy passes us because I'm in my run space. Yeah, this guy passes us. As he passes us, he passes out. Like collapse on the ground, boom. And so they got medics, they got people, everybody comes out, they pick him up, they take him off in a stretcher. He goes in the ambulance, he's gone. Mile 25. He's not a marathoner. He's a try to run a marathoner,
He's a failed marathoner.
right? And the thing that is so important is that people have to remember what's the goal? What is the purpose? If your
Absolutely.
goal is to
Pick right.
build a business that is successful, that is making money, that is taking care, understand that really dig into all of the I made $100,000 in 90 days. I made $1 million in 2 years. Dig into all of those stories. And what you will hear are the months and years before that run
Sure. Yeah. The
where they were
reps.
learning how to hustle, where they were learning product market fit, where they were learning all these things. And if you don't have that background, even if you look at the hustlers, 50 Cent was hustling. Curtis Jackson, for those of you all who are uninitiated, right? 50 Cent was hustling from the time he was 12 years old,
Getting the reps in early.
getting reps in early, way before he ever thought about rapping. And then when he started rapping, he was still having to hustle rap because he was doing mixtapes and all the rest of this type of stuff. There's a story in his new book, which is Hustle Smart, Harder, Hustle Smarter,
Uh-huh.
which I love because you want to be smarter, not just harder.
Uh-huh.
But he tells a story of how he actually got his tapes bootlegged so that he could create buzz because what was happening was all the hottest artists were getting bootlegged. And so he understood that getting his stuff bootlegged meant was a good thing. And he had to stop one of his boys from beating up one of the bootleggers because he thought that he was
He
taking
said,
money
no,
from it.
that's
He was like, no,
marketing.
that's our PR, that's our marketing. They doing free marketing for us. Stop it. Right? Because they didn't have a record deal.
Yeah, sure.
the the thing about it though is that he understood that because he had been hustling. He had already developed that skill. And when you look at so many of these people that we idolize or that we see as champions in the space, in the business space, right? Richard Branson, before he bought his first Virgin Records store,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
He had
newspaper
already
or something,
had
didn't
newspaper routes. He had had
he? Yeah,
a whole
yeah.
bunch of different businesses. You look at all of these stories and you find out, oh, they have been doing business for a long time. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're coming from the work world and you haven't been hustling,
Boy, it's a transition, y'all.
it's a transition, right? I had 3 different businesses before I started this business, right? I used to sell Amway products. I used to do all of the, right? I had Amway distribution. I had a jujitsu school, right? And this was a partnership. So I didn't do the marketing and the promo. I had a partner that did the marketing and the promo. I did sales when they got in the door,
Mhm.
right? But and so I had been in that space where we had done that stuff. And then I would sell aftermarket. So I sold merchandise and I sold all the rest of that type of stuff. Like I had had these experiences for 20 years before I started my business. And even then, starting my business was not easy. It was, you know, 2 years of grind. Like you remember, we used to have a talk. I'm like, bruh, like I don't
Yeah,
understand. And now, right, we're 5 years in and we've made lots of money and things are good, but it was a grind.
yeah,
And I feel like a lot of times entrepreneurs are not given the real about what it is to start over. Now, here's the key to your question. If we start over, which means you've already made it,
yeah. You've got
if you're
some reps
starting
in.
over, right, you've got your reps in, you got everything else. If you've already made it after
Now what?
starting over, that's exactly your point that you made is exactly what I would do, which is number one, I would find something that already has product market fit, already has marketing, and I would go affiliate market and hustle and sell as much of it as necessary and make me some money so that now I've got a year's worth of runway to go figure out what's the next venture that I'm going to do.
That's right. Right. And again, that's where I talk about in what Rob said, right? If you're a marathoner and you try to sprint it, it's gonna fail. You're just going to, right? So you got to pick the right race. Are y'all with me? Pick the right race. If you say to yourself, I gotta earn tomorrow, and this is something that I do. And if you're working with Rob and I, you'll get two sides. You'll say, okay, Rob's gonna say, we're gonna build this business, and I'm gonna say, we're gonna get you some money tomorrow. How do
Exactly.
we do that?
Exactly.
And then that's where I'm going to be coming to you and saying, okay, shotgun or sniper, one is going to help me dictate. Or do you believe are you a sprinter or are you a marathoner? And Rob's going to say,
Mm-hmm.
well, I want everybody to this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. But, having these two perspectives is
Mm-hmm.
going to help you build the
Mm-hmm.
business. But
Yeah.
again,
And that's the
you
things
come
that
to us and you
that
say,
we're
I
good
need
at.
to get this bag tomorrow. And I'm going to
Yeah.
say, okay, here's step one, step two, step three, bam.
Three. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then
Mm-hmm.
Rob's going to make sure that, hey, this is why we work in synergy, right? Why we work together,
Mm-hmm.
why it's two
Mm-hmm.
business guys masterminding, right? And why
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about this subject, because I'm seeing a lot of it, Rob. I'm seeing IRS bills come due for people, and they're like, hey, I didn't
And the
anticipate
recession
this.
is hitting.
It's right,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that that money is now
It's
due,
gone. Yeah.
right? So they're like, oh my gosh, I'm, 10 in, or I'm 10 behind, or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
People
Mm-hmm.
starting over because their business model, they're having to pivot because they found out the business model is no longer effective,
Yep.
no longer a
Yep.
product
Yep.
market fit. So they got to
Yep.
start over. I got
Yep.
one company 9 years in, and there was the arrogance of saying we're 9 years old. We shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have to do this. Whereas my perspective was, I want you to feel like you're a 9-year-old startup. What would you
Exactly.
do? You would ask everybody, and I put some notes down here, right? You would, and one of the things I says, you going on this, leveraging your goodwill to go on compassion campaigns. That's, you love us, you know us, you love us, give us money, right? Ask for the order campaigns. And then I got this one that deals with a funnel a day. Now, most of this stuff does not cost a dime,
Right. It's the key.
not
It just costs
one
time.
dime,
Yeah, it
but it
just costs
does
time.
cost ego. Y'all hearing
Mm-hmm.
it?
Ooh. Ooh.
It costs
Bars.
ego. And the ego is saying, we're 9 years old. We shouldn't have to do that. We don't want to seem
Mm.
desperate. All these different things. Some of this is stuff that Rob talked about.
Ooh. Ooh. No,
But
no, 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 no. To be clear, I want to make the distinction because what you just said was really important. I want to distinguish it very clearly from what I was talking about because what I was talking about was very different.
Mhm.
So what you're talking about, and everybody hear what he just said, because that part, you need to write that down. The one thing that you are going to have to let go of if you are going to be a successful entrepreneur is ego, because you don't get to tell the market what the market likes. You don't get to tell the market what it wants, right? You, when you are an entrepreneur, you are providing value to people. You are providing a service. Even if you're providing goods, you're still providing a service, which is getting those people those goods in a way that's faster, better,
Mm-hmm.
easier, more convenient than they could get
Mm-hmm.
it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
That is determined, just like beauty, in the eye of the beholder. They determine what they think is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to tell them that it's valuable and then they say, oh, it's valuable, right? That's not how it works. Even if you look at luxury brands, they didn't start out, right? They had to develop that market. They had to develop that we're valuable, we're important, we're this, and then they had to start with a small group of people who say, yes, it is valuable. And then they
Mm-hmm.
got a bigger group of people and a bigger group of people. The point that I was making about desperation is not the the ego hit of desperation, but rather the affect of desperation. When you're desperate, when you're actually desperate, the way that you show up is different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to be aware of. But to be clear here, you actually need to be in that desperate space. If you are in that desperate space, you need to be willing to do the things that you need to
Yeah.
do. That's why I
Yeah.
said, right? You got to do part-time jobs. You got to do whatever you need to do, as Randy said, to make the bag. Whatever it is, you got to be willing to do it. That's what your desperation should do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you have to be able to do is to separate that from how you interact with people outside.
Mm-hmm.
Inside, you got to be willing to do whatever.
Kind of a
Outside,
quiet
you
desperation.
quiet desperation. You can't be
I like
sitting
that.
there. You can't be sitting there and looking to people like, help. I need help. There's nothing that I can do. And right.
Might
It's a
as well get a
bad energy.
sign and sit outside car windows. I get it. I
Exactly.
get it. I
It's a
get it.
bad
Sure.
energy. But internally, just like you said, that desperation needs to be there. That's fueling the I cannot quit. I cannot sit down. I cannot rest. I got to get here. I got to make it. So I wanted that gym to be there because that ego piece, that ego piece is what
Yeah.
stops a lot of people.
Bro, have been there, done that. And this is what I'm getting to, y'all. I remember a time when I said to myself, I don't want to let people that know me see me struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I moved. I moved.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, so deep. Now, that move, it worked out, but it still cost.
Right.
Right. And it was my ego that says, I don't want to see people that know me, the place I grew up, see me struggle because, the company I had worked for had closed the doors. And, I had a pile. So I, called myself retiring the first time. And I was young. I mean, really young. And I said, and then I was like, I'm good. Right. I looked over at the pile and go, I can dig into that for a minute. And then stuff started going wrong. My property started, needing a whole bunch of repairs and all these different things, right? So then I started saying, man, it's starting to get, the pile is really, really low. I'm close to insolvency, right? What do I need to do? And that's where I says, well, I can't let people around here see me going searching for jobs. And that was ego. Absolutely ego. And here's my point is that I would have, looking back, right? I would have stuck around. I wouldn't have sold the properties. I would have kept the property, all these different things that as a result of having been away, not around my properties to go over and fix on them, having to get a property manager that didn't do a good job. So my point is, as we look at, if you had literally to start over, if it was over, you had to go from scratch, it was nothing left, and you could take a several routes, job route, all right, like Rob was talking about, or you says, I can't do a job, my knees hurt, my back hurts, I got to do it from the house or whatever. Then I'm suggesting that we look at what can earn us money as if it were tomorrow, as if you needed it
Exactly.
tomorrow, right?
Exactly. And to be clear, I think that, like I said, if we're hustlers, if we're already business owners, the- your favorite, my favorite, I would 100% go the affiliate route. I would go find somebody that has something that's selling and go help them sell it.
That's it.
And right, because there's two benefits to this, right? Number one, you don't have to do any product creation and you don't have to do any delivery.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
you do is you intersect with at this one point, which is I'm going to find people who need that thing and I'm
Yeah.
going to get it to them.
Yeah. Exactly. For
Simple.
others.
You're right. You're bringing value to the business because you're bringing them sales. You're bringing value to your customers because they need the thing that you're bringing them, and you make money off of that. That's the first place that I would start if I was starting over. I would, and but there's another reason why that's the place that I would start. What you also do when you do that is you're building relationships in the business space with successful people, because if you're selling something for someone, that means they're successful already.
That's it.
Now
That's
you're
it.
connected to their network, because guess what? If you're good at selling for them, they're going to introduce you to their other friends who need things to be sold, who are also good at getting things done. So you have this network that you're able to create while you're thinking about whatever your next thing is. And you may not ever develop a next thing, right? I have a mentor that used to run a company, had 120 people working for him, you know, made millions of dollars a year. And now he's at the point where he's like, I don't want to do that no more. That's too big. Like, and me and Randy talk about this all the time. Like, I'm in the creation mode. I'm in the building, and I have a big vision, and we're trying to do something. But Randy's like, been there, done that. I don't want to have a big team no more. I want to be able to just be nimble and do what I want to do and take care of me. And I understand that, and I respect that. Right? Like, there will come a time when I'm in that space as well. Right? When I kind of retire from the building
Mm-hmm.
stage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the thing that for you all, if I was starting over again, right, and I might be in that I'm not building no more stage, the one thing that I will say is I never understood how easy it was to make $100,000 a year. I used to think that it was really, really hard. But I'll just break it down for you really quickly, right? Because we do the $1 million all the time, but $1 million is a lot of money. But $100,000, right? You making $100,000 a year, you're in the top 25% of wage earners in the country, in the United States.
Y'all pay
Hundred
attention
thousand
now.
dollars a year is $8,000, $8,300 a month.
Say it again, Rob. It's what?
$100,000 a year is $8,400 a month, right? The question is, what can you sell that you can make $8,400 a month? Now, there are programs that are $10,000 a piece. So you sell one of those a month and you're making $100,000, right? Now, of course, if you're making 50% commissions as a salesperson or something like that, you're gonna have to sell a couple more of these, right? But let's just look at selling $100,000 a year, and then we'll move past that for you. When you get there, $8,300 a month is what you need to sell to make $100,000 a year. If you're selling high ticket items, $10,000, that's one sale a month. If you're selling lower ticket items, $2,000, $3,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's five
Mm-hmm.
sales a month,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's basically one a week plus one extra. If you're selling $100 items, you're selling between 80
Gotta,
and 100
gotta
dollar
sell it.
items.
Gotta sell a lot.
You got to sell a lot. But again, if you're selling $100 items, you have a vehicle through which you can sell a lot of $100 items. And one of the things that I would recommend, if you're going to sell stuff that's $100 items or less, find stuff that people buy every month, every two
That they
months.
need to replenish. Yep. So y'all getting the tips now. If you didn't wait till this point, sorry, because we're unveiling the how. Now we don't typically do that. When you come to one of our workshops, you come to a 2BGM, Two Business Guys Mastermind workshop, right? Web class, workshop, whatever it is. We don't typically we'll reveal it there, but you're getting it now for free. I might have to go ahead and call this one in and put a price tag on it, Rob, because we're getting to the juice. But go ahead.
Yeah, but just looking at, it's not that difficult to make $100,000. But what it does require is your ability to focus.
Yeah.
to focus on the goal. I got hair in my mouth.
And
All right,
that's that
to focus
hunger
on
that
the
I'm talking
goal.
about. Can you focus it constantly? What is it in you that's saying, I gotta focus? I
Right.
gotta just do this.
And more than just constantly, consistently. The Again, you don't have to be doing this 8 hours a day, every day, 8 hours a day, every day, 8 hours a day, every day. But you do have to be doing it 1 to 2 hours a day, every day.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that consistency over time is what will start generating the benefits.
So
Now,
now
eight
let's
hours a day every day will magnify that. And if you can
yeah.
sustain that, do that.
And I want to tap into that, Rob. So okay. So you got your leverage point. And I'm a little different, right? I'm like, oh no, we're doing it 8 hours a day because well, I'm gonna sleep 8 and I'm working the rest. Y'all hearing me? Right. And again, now I'm getting emotional because I'm saying this is that hunger, right? So now if you found, okay, I got some leverage points here. Imagine if let's take Rob's approach, right? We're not gonna like, make sure we maintain our balance and all that stuff, right? But
Whole thing
what
is
would you
compounding
use?
interest is a slow burn.
What would you use then as a tip, right? Imagine it. All right, 30 days of going live 30 days of going live on Facebook. Is Facebook costing you? No, it's free. 30 days of going live. You start building up a little bit of an audience. You're going to call your friends, right? We talked about that compassion campaign. That's bringing the friends in. Hey, I'm
Mm-hmm,
doing this
mm-hmm.
thing 30 days live. I got this product. I'm selling the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And you go on your lives 30 days. What Rob said, consistent. Don't stop at 10. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, Rob, I'm watching people succeed with this. And
Yeah.
they were like, I didn't believe it. I can't stay consistent. I go 5 days, I forget that Friday. 7 days a week, 30 straight days. If you say, well, I'm gonna just do an hour, I'm gonna just do okay, that's fine. Go on an
Yeah.
hour
Yeah.
and
Now,
watch what happens to your fortunes. I believe they'll rise.
to be clear, it's when I'm saying an hour or two, I'm talking about is actually doing the thing. Now, the preparation for doing the thing is what fills up that other 6 hours, right? You're going to be writing your script, looking at doing your chat GPT research, doing all the rest of this type of stuff, getting things together, watching other people who do this thing so you get ideas,
Sharpening
so
the
you get it
axe.
right,
Yes.
sharpening your act. Like the key is you're going to be working on your business for 8 hours. The PGA, if you would, profit generating activity, the thing of going live every day. Nope. I haven't seen it. Maybe you've seen it. Nobody's gonna watch you for 7 hours straight. Like I think
I
there's
watched
one dude.
a webinar, three
Hmm.
hours. Now watch
Exactly.
this. He had 6,000 people on there, and it encouraged me. Now I watched a long time. It was 3 hours, and then I came back and watched the rest. My point is, and I thought about that for a minute, and I thought about this. I says, how would I make a brand new YouTube channel? How would I get my hours and my watch time? And this guy did, and it was a very interesting 3 hour 47-minute webinar, and he had 6,916 people on there, something like that. Right. And I thought, huh. And he was going over and he was teaching and he was showing and I was like, that's how. And he wasn't desperate. He's been making money, but in one fell swoop,
Mhm.
all those people kept watching because they were interested in the material. I knew this what he was, I've been watching this guy for several years, so I know his style, and it was still interesting to me. So we talk
Mhm.
about the hows, but what's inside, this is something that you come to one of our programs, that's what you're gonna get, y'all. Right? If you watch to the end, I applaud you, but that's what you'll get. You'll get us doing what we do like this in for your benefit. You're gonna get two approaches, right? And maybe this is the fire and ice. So I'm gonna make sure you're on fire, and Rob's gonna make sure you don't burn up stuff.
Here we go.
Hey everybody, that's pretty much it. Rob, did you have a couple things you wanted to leave people with, and we can
I
wrap
think the
this up?
big I think the biggest thing is remember you talked about this. Simon Sinek talks about it. Know what your why is. Know why you're
Absolutely.
doing what you're doing. What
Absolutely.
your why does for you is it helps you to get past those moments when you don't feel like doing it. It helps you to get past ego. It helps you get past the shouldn't have tos. It helps you get past all of that stuff. You got to know
Yeah,
your why.
that's what's up.
And then the second thing is, remember, Denzel Washington said this in a commencement speech, and I thought it was just the most amazing thing. Remember this: your desire for any good thing, that burning, that feeling, that desire, that I need to have this. This is what I'm supposed to do. That feeling is God's evidence to you, sent beforehand, that that thing is yours already in the future.
There it is. Okay, y'all. That's it. We've said our piece. Now, go about starting over, starting from scratch, whatever it is, and go get that money.